Hey guys, good morning. So welcome to the Jeep Stall Garage. I'm Dale. I cover a lot of Jeep repairs, that kind of thing. So if you're into that, go ahead and subscribe. Today we're going to be covering use of a ridge reamer. So I'm doing a rebuild on this 1992 Jeep Wrangler YJ. It has inline six. I've got the engine partially dismantled and I'm ready to take the pistons out, but before I can do that, there's a little bit of a ridge on top of the cylinders. I need to use a ridge reamer and just kind of clean that up a little bit. So let's take a look at it.
Don't drop it.
Stop!
Matt?
Actually had this for a... Let's get this out where we can actually work on it. All right, got the engine positioned where I want it, so where we can work on it. So why am I using the ridge reamer on it? Well, the top of the cylinders, so this has like 150,000 miles on it, I think. And when you have these older inline six or four cylinders with that many miles, 100, 150, 200,000, you're gonna develop a little bit of a ridge on the top. Now, some of that is carbon buildup and just junk you need to kind of clean off, but you can get, if you have wear on the inside of the cylinder, the top of the piston where the ring stops, that little tiny gap, this little edge right around the top here, you get a little ring around the top there, and that's the ridge that we're going to be cutting off. Now if you have excessive wear, you're going to need to get it overboard. You're going to have to take it to a machine shop, have it professionally done, and replace it with oversized pistons and rings and all that. But in this case, I'm just kind of cleaning this up using the ridge reamer to clean up the very top ridge there. And we need to do that so that we can take the pistons out. If you have a ridge at the top like this and you go to drive the pistons out, you take off the caps on the bottom and you try driving the piston out, you can break the rings. Well, we're going to be replacing the rings anyways, right? But you can also actually even break the piston if you're putting too much force on there. That can happen as well, so you want to be careful of that. But let's get to how to use this ridge reamer. Now this is just a simple ridge reamer that you can buy off of Amazon. I'll include a link in the description below of where you can find one, but you can also rent them for free at some auto parts store. They have a deposit that you put down and you bring it back when you're done. Now this is a pretty cool little design here. So it's actually in the lowest position right now. So you have the base right here and it has these little legs on it right here. These are called the spiders. And as you tighten this center ring right here, what you do is you drop this down into the cylinder so that the cutting blade right here is just below the ridge that you're going to be cutting. And as you twist this, it's going to go up, slowly cutting that ridge. This carbide blade is slowly going to cut that ridge off as we go around clockwise. So we want it down at a low position right now for when we put it down into the cylinder. And this top bolt right here, flip it over, my right hand's a little stronger. So you can see here these little spiders, the little legs there. As you tighten this center one down, these little legs come out and this secures it and centers it inside of the cylinder. And there's these two little bolts right here, and this just secures this plate that goes back and forth with the cutting blade on it. So we're going to loosen these guys up. And then pull the blade back so we can pull the blade back. Good Lord. There we go. And pull the blade back so we can slip it down in the cylinder. Once it's down in the cylinder, we push this forward until it's touching the wall of the cylinder. Tighten these guys down. Now on the very top here, there's a 1, 2, and 3. We're going to make sure that it's over on position 2 when we're starting out, when we drop it down into the cylinder and secure it. Then when we're ready to cut, we're going to flip it over to number 3, and that just moves the blade a little bit and engages it. When we're done, we're going to flip this over to 1, and that withdraws the blade a little bit so that we can then loosen the unit and remove it from the cylinder. And I'll be sure to include a copy. I'll take a picture of the instructions on this thing if you want to read the instructions yourself, and I'll post that on my social media on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're using a ridge reamer, you want to read those instructions yourself, go check that out. I'll post it there. But let's take a look at it in use. Might be a little easier to follow just doing that. And we're going to start with cylinder number 1. We're going to go just down the line in order. So we want cylinder 1, the piston down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and rotate this a bit. So we get it down at the bottom so we can fit our ridge reamer down in there. So we get it down at the bottom so we can fit our ridge reamer down in there. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we want to get these spider legs at the approximate diameter of our cylinder there. So let's twist those out a little bit. So it fits down in there nicely without too much slack in it. There we go, that's nice. And we want that cutting blade just below the ridge there that we're going to be reaming. Okay, now that we have it in place, our cutting blade is just below our little ridge right there. So if you see over here how there's these 2 half moon little shapes, that's a nice finger hold there that you can kind of put your finger in there and hold it in place while you tighten this top nut right here. And this just, like I said, extends those little spider legs. And now you don't want to over tighten it, just get it snug to where it's not moving on you. You can actually gouge your cylinder walls or possibly distort it, so just snug is fine. So next we're going to loosen these 2 guys, slide our cutting blade over just so it touches the cylinder wall, and tighten these guys down. And remember, we're on setting 2 right now. Now it's secured, it's centered. We're going to move our cutting blade over to position 3. Move that little arrow over. Now it's on position 3. We are all set. Need a wrench on that. Hang on, we're not all set. Okay, now we're all set to ridge our ream our ridge. Use the ridge reamer. So remember, this top bolt is the one that spread out those spider legs to hold it. So this bottom one right here, this is a 7/8. We are going to start spinning. We're going to go clockwise, but first, use some of your favorite lubricant. This just isn't working. You want to make a mess. WD-40, will you send me a new bottle? This one is giving me issues. Look at that. So you don't want to do this dry. You want to get some lubricant on here. You don't want to be using this ridge reamer dry. It's just too rough. Little WD-40 is fine, diesel, whatever your favorite lubricant is. Now we're going to go clockwise in a nice, smooth, symmetrical pattern. And as we're doing that, it's lifting up that cutting blade. And you'll feel it to start to catch here. You always want to go in a clockwise pattern. You don't ever want to go counterclockwise. You can ruin the blade on the ridge reamer. And you'll feel it when it stops cutting. You want to get that blade just to the top. And we're going to stop. Alright, there we go. Now let's back this blade off to position 1 and loosen the legs on it. Let's pull it out and see what we got. So we've got all these little bits of debris now. You know, I'm not super worried about it because I am replacing the pistons and rings on this. So if you're doing this, most likely you're replacing your rings, but you'll notice there's a lot of debris or little fragments that have fallen down in there. That can destroy your rings. So you're only doing this if you're taking your pistons out and, you know, doing a rebuild of some kind. And this looks like it cleaned up really well. It's smooth now. I can't feel any ridge there anymore. My fingernail's not getting hung up. So awesome, job well done. And now we're going to go along and just repeat that process on all the cylinders all the way down. And when we're done with that, I'm going to continue with the disassembly of the engine. I'm going to be honing these cylinders, taking off the sheen, getting it all cleaned up, and ready for the rebuild. My new pistons and rings and bearings and all that. So be sure to subscribe to follow along with this rebuild as I take this 4.0 through a complete rebuild. That'll be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, guys. I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or comment or any idea about the rebuild on this, leave a comment down below. I really like hearing from you guys. And if my videos have helped you out in any way, help save you some money, teach you something, and you want to help support the Jeep Solid Garage, be sure to check out my Patreon page. It'll be linked below as well, along with some of my favorite tools and where you can find this Ridge Reamer. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.